Hi, everybody. So we are live on the air, and what a more appropriate way to introduce going live and talking about live streaming with our special guest, Cathy Hackl. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I wouldn't think of having anybody else for this week. We're talking about mobile and live streaming, and a year ago, none of this really existed. So what a better person to have as our expert today, Cathy Hackl. She started the first Periscope Summit. And Cathy, give us a little bit about your background and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So just a little bit about myself. It's hard to be called an expert in something that's so new, but I do take that. I do see, I have been on this since day one. So I do feel a bit of an expert, because I've been able to do this so much and kind of really involved in the industry. I worked in journalism for many years. I was nominated for an Emmy, and then eventually I transitioned into PR and into social media. So I've been doing that since almost 10 years now, and it's been fantastic. I am currently the co-founder of Live Video Campus, which focuses on bringing live streaming or live video education to brands and organizations. I was the director of the first Periscope Community Summit, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit later. And I'm also currently the Hispanic marketing evangelist for Boom Social, which is owned by Kim Garst, who is one of the top 20 social media influencers in the country. And we're launching a Periscope product, a Periscope social selling product in Spanish. So
Awesome. And Cathy, I think why we get along so well, and we've only known each other for about a year, and we met in real life just a few months ago, but we have such great karma because here's the common denominator. So public relations, social media, and the whole journalism aspect, I think those three make us, we have a lot in common. But I also think that those three are very key ingredients for success in the future of really any internal brand marketing and even agency marketing.
Definitely.
So we're here today to talk about, we want you to share some of your live streaming secrets, but also let's just start out by, can you tell us what is the state of live streaming and what does it look like today and what do you think it's going to look like in the future?
Well, Meerkat came out end of February of last year. So we're on the 1-year anniversary. I found out about it by accident, to be honest. And I just got involved. I saw Meerkat and I said, okay, I did broadcast television, so I did live television. And when I saw this opportunity to live stream from my phone, I said, this is fantastic. So in some way, it's like having your own TV channel in the palm of your hands. So I started live streaming on Meerkat. And as soon as Periscope came out, March 26th of last year, I jumped on it. I jumped on it really quickly. And I just fell in love with it, fell in love with the community, and just started doing a lot of it and try to understand what it meant for social media. So the current state, I think people are very excited. I think that a year ago, it sounds weird to say that, but a year ago, there were a lot of skeptics, even within our social media peers, within our social media, peers, influencers. A lot of people are like, oh, this is just another shiny object. This is going away. I'm not going to invest my time in this. So I felt a lot of pushback from some influencers. But then the reality is that now, a year after it, Periscope got App of the Year from Apple. Huge. You are seeing across the board, Facebook, doing a big push for live video. Periscope continuing to be one of the priorities for Twitter, which, we all know is kind of struggling. So, they're putting a lot of emphasis on live video. And then, you've got like YouTube working on something that's going to come out in the next couple of months. That is probably going to be pretty intense when it comes to the mobile live streaming element of it. So things are changing fast, are changing quickly, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time for video in general, I think.
Definitely. So let's just run through the players. So you mentioned a few of them already. If you could just take each one and just kind of give us your perspective on where that really fits in, and just kind of give, for those that don't know what Meerkat is, for example, or the difference between Meerkat and Periscope and the others that have just kind of come onto the scene. Yeah.
Meerkat was the first to market when it comes to mobile live streaming. It exploded during South by Southwest of last year. I mean, it was just crazy to see the feeds of everyone doing live streaming. The cool thing was that once you went live, it would get tweeted out through your Twitter account. But then obviously Twitter had bought Periscope before that. So once they realized Meerkat is the serious competitor to Periscope, they cut off access to the graph. So Meerkat didn't really have that anymore. So from that perspective, and what I tell brands and what I tell folks is that Meerkat is really not a big player anymore. I mean, the conversation you used to include Meerkat, it's really obsolete in some ways at this point. So, you know, it is important to know it's the first to market, but the reality is that probably right now, not a big player. So, you know.
And where does Facebook live stream fit in? And now we're coming up with also Snapchat can also kind of be considered a player, even though it's not side by side exactly the same.
Yeah, definitely huge. I mean, the fact that these things are going on, Facebook is two things that Facebook is doing that are huge. You know, obviously they rolled it out to users on Android and iOS, first on iOS, now on Android, from your live personal profiles. So everyone should be able to go live from their personal profiles, which is very exciting. They are also rolling it out slowly, the Facebook Live portion of it, rolling it out slowly to verified pages. So Social Media Examiner, which has a verified page, can go live. Or Kate Spade, you know, the company can go live from their Facebook page. They also have Facebook Mentions, which is for verified profiles, mostly for celebrities. Which is kind of the same thing as Facebook Live. They're a little bit different. I'm guessing they'll
it's
eventually
kind of confusing. It sounded like they just came out. First it was Mentions, and then they switched to Live, and now they have, is it both still?
They've got both going on. You know, I'm guessing that it's eventually all just going to be Facebook Live because it just makes sense not to have that separation. You know, that sort of thing. But very exciting. They're doing a big push in their algorithm and in their feed for live video to be even more prominent. So, you know, we always say that Facebook is changing everything on us, but this is an exciting part if you think about it from video. I mean, they're investing heavily on video and kind of making native video on the platform, one of their main focus. You know, then you've got Sheryl Sandberg, who is doing, you know, a big push, let's say, to get celebrities to do more live video on the platform. Even what I've heard is that they're thinking of paying celebrities to live stream on Facebook, which is, you know, revolutionary for Facebook, which normally is not going to pay anyone to do anything.
Right, right. That's a first.
Yeah. So, and I think that we're going to talk about the future of live streaming at some point, but I think that this also comes with what Mark Zuckerberg is pushing with 360 live video and virtual reality. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later because I'm super passionate about what the future holds. You know, so you've got Facebook Live, you've got Meerkat, which is really, you know, I'm not part of the conversation anymore. Periscope, March 26, 2015 came out, so anniversary. You know, it's such a young app, but it's been huge. It's had a lot of explosion. Latest numbers were 10 million users. Those numbers were from August of last year, which means that, you know, those numbers have only increased in that time.
I think I just read, maybe it was last month's post from Periscope, that they just hit their 100 million mark for Periscopes.
For Periscopes, yeah, for actual broadcasts.
Right, right.
Which is fantastic. I mean, I don't even know how many years of the numbers have changed, but it's used extremely well. And then, you know, the big thing, it's owned by Twitter, so they've got that integration. When you're on your Twitter feed, you can see the videos kind of you know, happening as they go. And they've tried to do a lot of stuff to gamify it and make it fun. I was at Twitter headquarters a couple months ago, and at one of the parts they had like little milestones about Twitter history. So they had, you know, the World Cup, they had the selfie at the Oscars from a couple years ago. They had all these mementos of important Twitter history. And the last one that they had at this point was March 26, 2015, which is when Periscope came out. So awesome. You can tell that it's an important part of where they're seeing Twitter kind of going. You know, that live video, native video integration.
Okay. And yeah. What about, where does Snapchat and Blab fit in?
Oh, fantastic. I love Snapchat. Well, Snapchat, you know, Snapchat just overtook Facebook in billions of views, of video views, 8 billion. I mean, they both have 8 billion views. It just, you know, it just literally matched Facebook. It didn't really overtake it, but it just literally matched Facebook, which is huge for a platform like Snapchat. The videos are shorter, obviously, but they're very engaging. People that are on Snapchat are very much engaged in them. You know, I'm sure a lot of your students are obviously obsessed with Snapchat, which is fantastic. I love it too.
I do too.
Yeah. And you know, they had at the Oscars, they had those Snapchat live stories where they were actually doing some live videos from the red carpet and from the event, and it was fantastic to watch. So they are definitely engaging more and more in the video side of things and on the component of it being live in some way. I mean, obviously it stays on the platform for the 24 hours if you do it on my story or what have you, but you know, they're definitely incorporating that live element.
Right. And brands are incorporating
Yeah.
Snapchat more and more, especially it just seems like in the past 6 months, brands are really starting to wake up to Snapchat and seeing the potential that that's where their audience is. If that's where their audience is, then they need to be there too. And now what about Blab? Where I love Blab too. And we're kind of like talking about behind the scenes doing something with on Blab together.
Yes.
But what's your take on Blab? Where does it fit
Well, when I explain it to someone that has never seen it, I say, okay, it's like, in my point of view, is if Periscope and Google Hangouts had a baby, that would be Blab. So if that makes sense to people.
And we're on Google Hangouts right now.
We're on Google Hangouts. So it's kind of like it's like a mishmash of things. It's fantastic. It's great for, you know, for having conversations. I even see it, you know, in the future being used for first responders in crisis communications, where you can have first responders there answering questions. The media can ask questions. I see a lot of uses for it. I've seen lots of brands starting to use it as well to create conversation with their clients or their user base. So it's fantastic. It's more conversational. It's more dynamic because you've got 4 seats for different people that can be talking at the same time. And I know that Slack just incorporated also some type of video calling element, which is not necessarily live streaming, but you know, I think that this concept of collaboration is huge and it's growing. So I love Blab. I think it's fantastic. And I think all these platforms, the live video platforms, especially Snapchat and all the other ones, are huge platforms for storytelling. And I think that that's their forte, that you're able to tell a story in a less static way, in a more active way than you could on a Facebook post, on a tweet. You know, these are, you know, it's video, so it's engaging.
Definitely. Okay, so Cathy, thank you for introducing us to all the different platforms on live streaming. And we're going to take a break now and come back and we'll talk about some do's and don'ts. Hopefully you can give us some of your best secrets and tips on live streaming. And then also, what does the future hold for us? So we're going to be back. And thank you so much, Cathy, for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa.